I want to welcome everybody to this week's Judiciary Committee. Madam Clerk, would you mind taking the roll? Members? Members, we're taking roll. Punch in, hit the blue button. Very good. All right, looks like that I've got everybody that's here. All right, Madam Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Chair, you have 15 members present. You have a quorum.
Very good. And once again, I want to welcome everybody to the Judiciary Committee today. Members, anybody have any personal orders before we get started? Personal orders announcements. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Hi, I'd like to welcome Cooper Reeves. I don't know where you sat down, Cooper. Stand up, if you will. Okay, there you go. Cooper.
My bad, I hit the wrong, I cut you off. Hold on. Would you turn her back on? Cooper was what we last heard,
okay,
probably.
Cooper Reeves works for Chamber of Commerce in Johnson City, my hometown. I had the privilege of praying with his mom since he was in kindergarten. He's shadowing me today, so y'all make him welcome.
Chairman Doggett.
Mr. Chairman, with me today, members, I have with us Chief Kopp from the MTSU University Police. He was in the room. He may have stepped out. I also have Chief Vest from the Chattanooga Housing Authority that was with us in the subcommittee, and Chief Patterson from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. Welcome, gentlemen.
Members, anything else before we get started? All right, looks like we have a calendar today. We're going to move out of order just in the beginning. I'm going to take up, without objection, item 8 for Chairman Boyd, House Bill 1140. A lot of members got a lot going on right now. So you got a motion, got a second on the bill. Looks like you have an amendment as well, 04352. Is that something like you'd like to move forward with?
That's what I'm showing, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. You got a motion and a second on the amendment. Sir, does that make the bill? Read about the
It
bill?
makes the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Members, do we want to go ahead and put that on there? Any objection? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting House Amendment 04352, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bill as amended, and you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, members, right now, if you haven't heard, that there's been a proliferation of the theft of catalytic converters in this state, and oftentimes it will result in the criminal, getting a $300 catalytic converter, but it may cost the owner of the vehicle $1,500, $2,000. And so, we put together a task force, the Tennessee Department of Safety, the TBI, the District Attorney's Conference, and everyone. And what we figured out that we needed to do was to further criminalize this. Now, at one point, we were going to make it a felony. We backed that up. It's currently a Class A misdemeanor, but current statute says that it can only be punishable by a fine. So what this would do would be we would delete that section that says punishable by a fine, so they could be imprisoned for up to 11 months, 29 days, like any Class A misdemeanor. And our hope is not necessarily that we want to put the person who had the reciprocating saw, the petty thief, behind bars. We want to be able to use that as leverage to get them to turn state's evidence against the crime family or whoever, the organized crime organization that's doing this at a higher level. Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions for Chairman Boyd? Any questions? All right. Question's been called. Any objection to voting? All right. Seeing none. Members, we're now voting to send House Bill 1140 as amended to Finance, Ways, and Means. Has every member voted? Any member like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations, sir. Looks like House Bill 1140 as amended is on its way to Finance, Ways, and Means. All right, one quick announcement. Item 3, House Joint Resolution 100 by Chairman Faison has been rolled. He's requested that to be rolled for 1 week. Any objection? Seeing none, roll for 1 week. And if we could, members, go out of order once again. If we could move down to item 2, House Bill 207 by Deputy Speaker Zachary. You got a motion and a second. Sir, looks like you've got Amendment 3919 traveling with this.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Sir, you've got a motion and a second. Is this rewrite the bill?
It does, yes, sir. It makes the bill. It makes the bill, yes,
Members, this makes the bill. We want to go ahead and put this on. Any objection? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting House Amendment 3919, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bills amended. You're properly recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I've been in front of you 3 times since 2017 with organized retail crime legislation. We were the first in the nation to pass that after working with numerous retailers and our organized retail crime teams, primarily Knox County Sheriff's Office. We have to come back in front of you every couple of years because the criminals advance as technology advances. So this simply updates definitions within that code to reflect modern technology like online marketplaces and scanners. That's all it does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you for that explanation. Members, any questions for Deputy Speaker Zachary? All right, question's been called. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. Members, looks like we're ready to vote. Send House Bill 207 as amended to Calendar and Rules. All those voting aye? No? Everyone voted? Anyone change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Thank you. Members, House Bill 207 as amended is moving to Calendar and Rules. Thank you. Chairman Doggett, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I end up getting assaulted here, I needed to make sure that I mentioned the world famous Abigail Kidd, who is with us today, joined by her father, Tommy Lee. Tommy is our circuit court clerk, and I had him on my list to recognize earlier, and I forgot, but please help me welcome them to the Judiciary Committee.
All right, members, once again, just moving on, looks like we're going to go out of order once again without objection. If we could take item 6 by Chairman Lafferty, House Bill 1229. Sir, you've got a motion and a second. I'm not seeing an amendment on this. If you go ahead and explain your bill, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Many of you may be a little bit familiar with this already. This is a bill to remove the bond. To remove the cash that's charged to a citizen if they've had their items seized in a civil asset forfeiture action. Right now, that bond's about $350 for them to get their property back. It's my contention a lot of those folks don't have that $350 in the first place. This bill would waive that and allow them to go ahead and get their property back.
Very good. Thank you for the explanation. Members, have any questions for Chairman Lafferty? Leader Lambert, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman, we've talked about this. I mean, your intent on this bill is to do just this, only this, and nothing else in the bill. It is literally just to take the bond off. And if it were to change in any way, you'd bring it back to this committee, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, members. Additional questions? Question's been called. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All right, all those in favor of sending House Bill 1229 to Finance, Ways and Means? Vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Anybody like to change the vote? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Very good. House Bill 1229 moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
And just looking out there, trying to get some members out of here. Members, don't mind. We're going to go out of order and move up to item 5. I miss Chairman Crawford sitting down there. House Bill 403, and I apologize about that, sir. You got a motion and a second on the bill, and I see House Amendment 3845 traveling with this. Is that something you'd like to put on that?
Yes, please, to discuss the bill.
And it does make the bill?
I'd just like it put on so we can discuss the bill in full.
Okay, very good. Members, with that request, any objection? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of adopting House Bill 3845, House Amendment 3845 to House Bill 403, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, ayes have it. Now we're back on the bill as amended, and you're properly recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Vice Chairman and committee and our guest in the audience. House Bill 403, I can tell you, is the unlawful photography bill. About 3 years ago, we passed a bill that made this a law that people couldn't go around just taking pictures. I think they're called upskirt pictures and taking pictures of people's private areas and making them feel uncomfortable. And so what I'm doing today with this particular bill is addressing some of the loopholes that are in that If the chairman wouldn't mind, I'll tell you exactly what the bill does.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
This will broaden the definition of the offense. It will clarify reasonable expectation of privacy. It updates some of the terminology that we used 3 years ago. It establishes penalties, and this would be going from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class A felony. And the misdemeanor could be up to 1129 in jail and a $2,500 fine, and this will change it to either serving no less than 2 years and no more than 12 years. This changes the effective date as well, and the overall impact that it's going to have on citizens in Tennessee in this particular bill. It reflects a stronger legislative intent to protect individuals from this invasive photography. The changes aim to address modern privacy concerns and technical advancements while maintaining a focus on the public and their welfare. That's the bill, and I'll be standing for any questions.
Thank you, sir, for that explanation. And I do have a couple of ladies on the list to testify today. Members, do we want any objection to going out of session here, them? Just in case any members has any questions. All right, no objection. We're going to go out of session. And Julie Mix and Ms. Thomas, I know y'all had testified in subcommittee and done a great job. Give you the opportunity to do the same thing here. Very good. If y'all, we'll give y'all 3 minutes each to give whatever remarks you'd like to have or give to the committee. And your mics are on. And if you just introduce yourselves and we'll give you plenty of times if any member has any questions or comments. So.
My name is Julie Mix. I'm a mother of 3 children and a high school business teacher at Macon County High School in Lafayette, Tennessee. In April of 2020, it was discovered that my then husband was secretly recording and taking photographs of my daughter nude in the shower. In addition to that, he admitted that he was also looking at her through holes in the ceiling of her attic above her shower. At this time, she was a high school senior, top 10 in her class, on her way to the state basketball championship game, on the golf team, the Interact Club, Beta Club, and school leadership clubs. She was a senior in high school, ready to attend University of Tennessee, Knoxville in the fall. She has fought her entire college careers over the last 5 years, seeking justice against her former stepfather and also former state trooper, who was a father figure in her life since she was in 2nd grade. She has endured the embarrassment of our local publicity in our small town, the trauma and anxiety of living in the home where the crimes were committed against her. She has been followed, stalked, been to numerous court dates, endured a 3-day trial, a sentencing hearing, and after a 3-day trial, he was found guilty and convicted and is currently appealing to the Court of Appeals. He is still walking free after 5 years. When I come here today to support these victims behind me and the bill to change the statute of limitations, I'm also advocating for strengthening the penalty against these type of crimes. The technology that made these crimes so prevalent in our society today has changed, and we have to change the laws to keep up with the technology. In my daughter's case, the judge was limited by what he could do with the current statute because these types of crimes are only considered Class A misdemeanors. This criminal can serve his time concurrently and only have to serve about 7 months of his sentence. This is an equivalent Class A charge, is equivalent to driving on a suspended license or leaving the scene of an accident. There is no way that these crimes compare to the emotional trauma of unlawful photography and observation without consent. My family is not going to be the last to be traumatized by people like my ex-husband. He was supposed to be the protector in our home. He swore an oath to the citizens of this state and is very similar to most people that commit crimes like this. They get close to their victims and use their trust for their own sexual gratification. These victims have lifelong trauma doing ordinary tasks that we take for granted, like bathing, going to the restroom, changing clothes. And this is never going to change for them while this perpetrator will be out in 7 months back to his normal life. They will never be comfortable in a public or private restroom again or in their own home. I'm not comfortable in my own home. We are all here because we have different versions of the same story, basically. We've been violated, embarrassed, stalked, photographed, recorded, doing normal private things by people we trusted. You all have a mother, a sister, a daughter, a granddaughter, a friend, and you would be horrified if something like this happened to them.
Thank you, ma'am. Your 3 minutes is up right there. I'll actually let you go just a little bit longer. So if you just pause there, we'll have unlimited time for questions.
Okay.
Members have any questions for you? Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Chairman Farmer. I am also a victim of unlawful photography. We'll give testimony and share a little bit more about our story in the next bill. But Julie did reach out to us, and I thought it was important that she come and share her story about this bill. While our experiences are different, our frustration with the law is the same. And for someone to repeatedly predatorize, exploit someone like this and to get merely a slap on the wrist, that's not accountability and that's not justice. And so I just want to thank Chairman Crawford for bringing this legislation. We're fully in support of it, and I'd ask for your favorable vote.
And thank you for that. Members, do you have any questions for our guests? Leader Lambert, you recognize, sir. And then Representative Johnson, I got you.
Ladies, thank y'all for coming. I know you've testified, and ma'am, you've not testified before, but I mean, look, I'm the son of an amazing mother. I'm the husband of an amazing wife, and I'm the father of an amazing daughter. And when I hear stuff like that, it makes me angry. It makes me very angry. And I know you've gone through that as well. And I just appreciate Chairman Crawford bringing this bill. I've said that publicly before. Look, nobody should ever have to go through with these ladies that are in here testifying. And I wish you weren't. I wish you didn't have to be here today, because this is horrible. And it just makes me mad. And I'm glad we're doing something about it to try to punish it. But I hope some dirtbag out there hears today that the penalty is going to go up by about 4 times if this bill passes. And it ain't jail time you're looking at, it's prison time. I hope you enjoy it if you do this kind of crap. So it's ridiculous. I hope we get this bill passed. I hope we get it funded. And if even one person out there hesitates for just a second to do this kind of crap because of the prison time they might face, then it's worth every bit of it. Thank you for being here today. You are brave, strong, amazing ladies, and I'm proud of y'all, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Representative Johnson, you recognize.
Yeah, just thank you so much for coming and telling your story. Really puts a fine point on what we need to do and what we're doing here. But the strength of you and your daughter are amazing.
Thank you.
Representative Towns.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Ladies, all of you all have to apologize for you having to go through some of this kind of evil scenario episodes in your lives. You know, the kinds of things, as the leader said, it makes men angry. It really makes us want to hurt somebody. It really does. I'm just going to be raw with you a little bit. But what gives us hope is that you have the courage to come and help us change the law. Don't be embarrassed. You haven't done anything. But try to be just a normal, natural human being. Don't let the devil talk to you in that manner. You take your gloves off and you fight just like you're fighting. Try to make it better for the people. And the law is growing up to, because of Representative Crawford, growing up to what it needs to do in order to address these kinds of things. Evil people do exist, and they're not missed. We can't let them make us shrivel and crawl back into a hole and disrupt our lives and do the things that we ought to be doing to make the world a better place. We got to go out and fight them with this foolishness. But you've not done anything. Don't ever internalize that thought. You haven't done anything. You're doing something now, making it better. So I'll say this for the membership here. You all are all our heroes for coming here, standing up, and helping us to get on par with what the penalties need to be. So just stay strong.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Members, anyone else? Representative Hardaway, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, ladies, for being here. I wasn't in for all of your testimony, but thank you for your strength, your courage, and your willingness to move from victims to victors. I appreciate that. Thank you, sponsor, for the bill. And I'm going to sing the praises of the leader back there, Lambert. What he did not share with you is that he has worked on this type of legislation since I've been here, and we've made progress. But sponsor, you're taking it a step further. But the sad thing is that the type of damage that's done, thanks to the current status of the internet, is it lasts forever. But hopefully, with AI, we'll be able to at some point go back and clean it up and restore you to that justice that would be the purest form, and that is like it never happened. So thank you again for your strength, your courage in making sure that you look after those potential victims of the future. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, anyone else? Before we excuse our guests. Ladies, we sincerely appreciate the both of you taking your time to be here today. It means so much to us and the members, the general public, to know that you were here advocating for those that have been victimized. Thank you so much. Members, any objection to going back into session? Members, any objection to going back into session? All right, seeing none. We're back in session, back on House Bill 403 as amended. Chairman Crawford, any closing remarks, sir? And we'll have some questions from some members. I see hands.
Yes, sir. I just want to also thank the ladies for coming and sharing their stories. This happens more than we realize, and we need to keep up with the times, and we need to make sure that our citizens are safe. I'm a dad of a daughter, and that's part of the reason that it's important to me. And this could happen to anybody, but I hope this bill makes some difference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
I
you,
renew
Mr.
my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now for questions, I have Representative Powell. Sir, you're first on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, appreciate you bringing this bill. I'm proud to co-sponsor this bill with you. I did have a question that came to mind based on the testimony we just heard, and maybe we could ask legal. Given that we're now increasing this penalty, if someone was found to have done this to a juvenile, would they still also be held to standards with if that video is captured and recorded to possessing juvenile porn and being also charged with those crimes? That's my question for legal.
Yes, sir. Members, any objection going out of session hearing from Ms. Fogarty, Legal Services? Okay. All right, we're out of session. Ms. Fogarty, you're recognized.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services. I think if it involved a minor, then they could probably, based on the facts and circumstances, they could probably also be charged under the sexual exploitation of a minor statutes.
Representative Powell, any follow-up?
And would those have to be saved, or if it was shown that they recorded that on a device, those were captured? Meaning, would it have to be saved to someone's computer, or if it was shown that somebody was doing that with a recording device, could they be charged?
Ms. Fogarty?
I think for the sexual exploitation offenses, it's just possession of the photographs.
Representative Powell, any follow-up, sir?
No, thank you.
Members, anyone else for legal? Anyone else have any questions, Ms. Fogarty? Representative Hardaway?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes. Is there anything in this bill that speaks to the sex offender registry and the need to place the convicted person on that?
Ms. Fogarty, you're recognized.
So under the current statute, the judge has the discretion to order the person to register as a sexual offender, and this bill does not change that.
Representative Hardaway?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Representative Towns, you have a question for Ms. Fogarty, Legal Services?
For legal, please.
You're recognized.
Legal, I thought that was automatic. If they committed a sex offense like that, they would automatically go in the registry. That's not the case. That may be something else we might need to look at.
Ms. Fogarty?
There's an element of this offense that is still a Class B misdemeanor if it's committed in a particular way.
Okay.
This bill raises other means of committing this offense to a Class D felony, and the bill did not change the provision that gave the judge discretion, depending on the facts and circumstances of each case, as to whether or not to require the offender to register as a sexual offender.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Members, anyone else from Ms. Fogarty? All right, seeing none. Any objection going back into session? Seeing none. All right, we're back in session and on the bill as amended. Members, any additional questions for Chairman Crawford? Seeing none, we ready to vote? Any objection to voting? All right, members, we're voting to send House Bill 403 as amended to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. On the board? Anyone want to change their vote? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you take the vote, please.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Well, thank you, Chairman Crawford. House Bill 403 as amended is moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Members, if you would, bear with us, bear with me. If we could move down to item 16, House Bill 602. We've got some of the same folks here to testify. House Bill 602 by Representative Freeman. Members, we got a motion and a second. Representative Freeman, I'm looking at House Amendment 3929, sir.
That's correct.
You got a motion and a second. Is this something that we need to put on now, or is it?
It makes the bill.
It makes the bill. Members, any objection to adopting House Amendment 3929 to House Bill 602? No objection. Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting House Bill 3929 to House Bill 602, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bill as amended. Representative Freeman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. This is the Voyeurism Victims Act. This bill was brought to me by a group of Nashville women who were, some of them are here right now, who were unlawfully photographed. As you just heard, due to some limitations of the law, these women could not get the justice that they deserved. And the bill before you is a byproduct of those conversations. As amended, the bill does three things. It adds a definition of disseminate to unlawful photography to mean transfer, publish, or otherwise make accessible. It tolls the statute of limitations for unlawful photography offenses to the date of discovery if the defendant concealed the crime. And it allows the victims of unlawful photography without consent offenses to petition the courts for an order of protection. Part of the problem with these types of crimes is it takes the feeling of power away from people. If they feel powerless to make a difference. And if this bill passes, we're going to give these women some power back. I think we've got some testimony as well. Is that correct?
It is.
I'd be happy to answer questions or let them give testimony and we can come back to me.
Members, any objection going out of session hearing from our guests? All right. Without objection. And if we could have Ms. Warner and then Ms. Thomas, I have you all on the list, but if there's others who'd like to come up as to sit there as to show support. But I do have on a list, I did have Ms. Warner and I have Ms. Thomas. So I would just ask that you two just introduce yourselves in 3 minutes apiece. Okay. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christiana Warner and I'm a victim. In June of 2024, I came across a file with my first name on it on my then boyfriend's computer at the time. I initially was excited thinking it would be sweet memorabilia. I didn't expect it to be one of the most horrific and disturbing discoveries I had ever experienced. Numerous sexually explicit videos of us all recorded without my knowledge or consent. Looking at the angle that the videos were recorded, I inspected his bedroom and I found a secret tiny hidden camera on his bedside alarm clock, complete with an SD card in the back and a QR code to connect to the internet with. I was in shock, trying to understand and rationalize in this moment. Why would the man whom I love violate my privacy and trust in such an egregious manner? What else has he done? What has he done and what is he capable of doing with these files? As if opening a filing cabinet of dirty secrets, I explored the folder my name was located in. There, I discovered thousands of sexually deviant files in the meticulously organized 12 folders of the other named victims he violated and recorded. The oldest recorded dated back several years. It was at this point all attempts to rationalize went out the door. There were other women involved who had no idea what this man had done to them. I want to be clear. This was premeditated, this was planned, and this was organized. In one of the videos, you see him adjust the camera and move a wine glass, obstructing the view of the bed. This man is a serial offender. Digital videos can be uploaded and shared who knows where. Digital media files last forever. It's not like a Polaroid picture you can burn in the fireplace back in the day. Times have changed, and it's time our current laws reflect the world we live in now. I immediately reported my additional findings to the police and sought an order of protection. I was incredibly fearful of who this deceitful man really was and what he was capable of. I feared my privacy, I feared my safety, and with him facing potential criminal charges and knowing it was me who reported him, I feared he would retaliate and I feared for my life. I was not granted my order of protection because unlawful photography did not meet the criteria for one. I was not protected by the law and I still live in fear today. I took safety in the comfort of my family home back in my rural small hometown of Verona, Missouri. There I sobbed in my parents' arms. I can't imagine how it would feel as a parent knowing you try to do all you can to protect your children from evil and from predators, only to learn that your daughter was deceived by one we welcomed into our home. I started reaching out and finding the other women, only to find that most of the women would never truly receive justice because there was a 1-year statute of limitations from when the time was committed on this law. But with new support and friendship found, we decided that it was greater than all of us and real change needed to be made for criminal justice. We are here today because what we are going through should never be the reality for unsuspecting victims. We are here today because our lawmakers chose to hear us, support us, and stand beside us in our time of need. We, the women, know this law, if passed, will not apply to us in our situation, but this is so much bigger than us. This is about everyone who comes after us. This is about justice, true justice, something we should all be afforded when we are wronged. We have put our hearts and our pain into crafting this legislation in hopes that no one will have to go through what we've ever gone through again. Today, I pray that you vote yes on our House Bill 602.
Thank you, ma'am. And Ms. Thomas?
I don't think I introduced myself for the record last time. Erica Thomas, just wanted to say the women before you are 6 of the 12 files that Christiana mentioned in her testimony. And I'm just here to answer any questions if you have them, but we appreciate your vote in advance. Thank you.
Very good. And thank you for being here. Members, any questions for our guests? Anyone? I don't have anybody on the list right now. Okay. Representative Hardaway, you recognized?
That's it.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the other ladies displaying the same type of courage that I spoke to before, where you want to move up from victims to victors. Just a specific question on the individual. What type of justice was meted out at that time?
Can you repeat the question?
Was he charged, and if so, what were the results, the disposition of the case?
He was charged with 8 counts of unlawful photography, but that only included, I believe it was 4 victims within the year of limitations.
He's currently awaiting trial.
Representative Hardaway, any follow-up?
Yes, sir. Was there any discussion with the courts or with the DA on whether this individual is going to be recommended for the sex offender registry?
Not that I'm aware of.
We would advocate gratefully for it, but I'm not part of the criminal trial, so I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all again, praying for you going forward.
And thank
Thank
you,
you, Chairman.
And thank you, Representative Hardaway. Members, I'll just remind everybody, if there's ongoing investigations and prosecution, let's just be careful with our questions to our folks that are here. We want to put their case in any sort of disadvantage. So moving forward, I have Representative Alexander. You're on the list, ma'am.
Ladies, thank you for your testimony. And you're beautiful to do this because you know it's not going to help you, but you're going to help someone else. That's incredible in itself. So I just want to say thank you. And we are praying for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, anyone else? Representative Towns, I thought I saw your hand. Did you have a question, sir, or a comment for?
Well, Mr. Chairman, based on what you said, I'm going to hold off a little bit because of the ongoing trial. But just thank you all. Just stay strong. Thank you very much. Okay.
Lear Lambert, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And ladies, I know I've met with some of you in my office before. You're very strong and brave to be here today. We appreciate your testimony. Your voices are heard and they matter to us, even if your cases are not a part of that criminal, about that criminal case. I hope they lay the hammer down in Nashville and do whatever they can to him at this juncture. But the two of these bills combine well together, and I appreciate all y'all's hard work. You put your time and talents into trying to craft legislation on this and work with both sponsors. It makes a difference. So I just wanted to say that. I know I mentioned in the last bill, but I know that we've met with y'all, and just know that your voices are heard by us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Members, that's all I have on the list for our folks. Is that, I don't see any more. Ladies, once again, we sincerely appreciate you taking your time to be here to testify in front of this committee. It takes courage, it takes bravery, and the fact that you're advocating for victims all over the state of Tennessee and the United States of America means a lot. So just thank you so much for being here. We sincerely appreciate it. Thank you all. Members.
Thank you.
Members, any objection going back in session? Seeing none. All right, back in session. We're back on House Bill 602 as amended. Any questions? I have Leader Lambert. You recognize, sir?
Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Any objection? Yes. Objection to the question? All right, I've got objection. You withdraw that? I've got one hand. Oh, okay. All right. Withdrawn. Representative Bolso, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Leader Lambert, for your indulgence. Just for a question. Representative Freeman, I've got a question about Section 2 of the bill. I agree wholeheartedly that the statute of limitations needs to be told to protect these causes of action. I'm concerned about whether this language actually does what we intended and want it to do. If we were to revise this language simply to say that the statute is told from the date of the crime until the victim discovers or reasonably should have discovered the crime, that would accomplish, I think, what we're trying to do. Looking at this language, it says that the statute, quote, is told for any period during which the defendant conceals the crime until such time at which the victim discovers the crime, close quote. So if you're the state and you want to toll the statute, you first have to prove that the defendant concealed the crime. And I'm concerned about what exactly a criminal defense lawyer might do with that requirement, because this crime by its nature is something that involves concealment. Someone is taking, without consent, photographs or videotape of someone else. And if, for example, we take the circumstance that occurred here, where someone used a camera on an alarm clock and just watched those videos and photographs over time without doing anything else, does that constitute concealment such that it would begin tolling the statute of limitations? I'm concerned about that because as this is written, for the prosecution to toll the statute, you first have to prove concealment and then you have to prove the date of the discovery. Why couldn't we just say that the tolling occurs from the date of the crime until the victim discovers or reasonably should have discovered, which only requires one point of proof?
President Freeman, any remarks?
Listen, I'm not a lawyer. I worked with the legal department to get this drafted. The way I read it is if someone is concealing the crime, it is told. I don't understand the difference of determining whether or not someone should have reasonably been able to find the video footage versus it being concealed. That seems like the same burden of proof to me. But I defer to legal to help us answer that question.
Members, any objection going out of session and hearing from legal services? Michelle Fogarty. All right, seeing none. Ms. Fogarty, you're recognized, ma'am.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services. The bill as drafted references 40-2-103, which states no period during which the party charged conceals the fact of the crime or during which the party charged was not usually and publicly a resident within the state is included within the period of limitation. It's a policy decision as to whether or not the members want to try to rewrite that in a manner that is different.
Members, any additional questions for Ms. Fogarty while we're out of session? Representative Towns, I have you first. I see you, Rep. Sardaway. Representative Towns, you recognize.
Okay, this is what I thought you were trying to do, okay? And legal helped me with this. Say the crime could have been committed 7 months in the past. And the person that's being violated finds out 7 months later. And I'm thinking that the clock would start when they find out and begin to report it, the statute of limitation.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services. Yeah, yes. Generally, the statute of limitations starts when the crime is when the offense is committed. The language here says it's told for any period during which the defendant conceals the crime until such time at which the victim discovers the crime. So under this, the statute would start to run on the date that the victim discovered the crime.
That's what we need. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Representative Hardaway for Legal Services. Pass. Members, anyone else for Legal Services? All right, Officer Jackson, we're going to go back into session. All right, back into session on the bill as amended. Leader Lambert, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my friend from Williamson County, I think, is right that it would potentially strengthen the bill. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of work that was put into drafting the language in the way that it is. I know that the sponsor worked with these survivors and ladies that have come up here. I will say that the bill that we just passed through here a while ago by Representative Crawford, if it were to pass, would toll the statute of limitations for at least 4 years, I believe. I'm looking at legal, but because it's a D felony, that would be a 4-year tolling of the statute of limitations in itself, and it would kind of bootstrap with this. So if we're fortunate enough that both of these bills pass through, I think they would work together. But to again, my friend from Williamson County's point, there may be some cleanup down the road if this were to come up as an issue, because it is a valid point that it could. But for purposes of today, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we just move forward with the bill.
Thank you. Yep. Leader Lambert, Representative Freeman, any follow-up comments there?
Yeah, I would. I'm sorry, real quick. I would like to thank Leader Lambert on his work on both this bill and this issue, and Chairman Crawford. It was the two bills work together, and they should both be passed.
Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Call the question.
All right, question's been called. There's been a second. Members, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of sending House Bill 602 as amended, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Has everyone voted? You'd like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Very good. House Bill 602 as amended moves on to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Members, just keeping with the protocol here today, if we don't mind, if we could move down to item 9. I see Representative Gillespie out there has been waiting patiently. That's House Bill 34. You got a motion in a second, sir. I see Amendment 4207 traveling with us. You've got a motion in a second on that amendment. Do we need to go ahead and adopt that, sir? Members, any objection to adopting House Amendment 4207 to House Bill 34? All right, seeing none, all in favor of adopting House Amendment 4207 to House Bill 34, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bills amended. You're probably recognized, Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What House Bill 341 does, this was brought to me by the TBI. Right now, what it does is it closes a DNA collection gap with those that are on death row in the state. Right now, there are currently more inmates on death row in Tennessee that we don't have DNA on than those that we do. And this is, it simply fixes that so that we can at least have some people there.
Representative Gillespie, I've item 9, House Bill 34, sir, 34. And you also have House Bill 341, item 10.
Do I have the wrong?
I believe you were explaining House Bill 341, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry, which bill are we on?
Oh, item 9, House Bill 34, 34.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I got it right here. My apologies, committee.
So you are
Okay.
and have been properly recognized on House Bill 34 as amended.
As amended.
To move forward.
All right.
Thanks,
So
sir.
let me back up here. I apologize. So what this does is this would allow for a juvenile's records, or excuse me, an adult that committed a crime or a delinquent act as a juvenile, this would allow the judicial commissioner or judge, when setting bail for an adult, to be able to look back after 5 years to see what those records may be. So an example would be if a 20-year-old is arrested for carjacking, and maybe at age 17 they were adjudicated for carjacking as a delinquent minor. Giving the judge access to that information when setting bail just makes sense. Transparency makes sense. I think those people need to be able to have access to all the facts. And then also, this bill would also look into some other items of juvenile records for certain people. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Members, any questions for Representative Gillespie? Representative Johnson, you recognize?
Thank you. I guess what I've heard is some concern about when you put this out as, it getting in the public record, a juvenile record getting in the public record because of an adult court bail hearing. But there's concern about juvenile records slipping out, especially in the case of someone who is not convicted and was not, guilty of the crime. So what guarantee is there that this juvenile record is not will it be in public record at that point?
Representative Gillespie, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's my understanding these conversations that take place now are in a both public and private setting, so that those records currently would eventually be open to the public, because if this goes to trial, these are records that are already being accessed by the judge when setting the sentence. Does that answer your question?
Representative Johnson, any follow-up, ma'am?
Yeah, I think it does, but it kind of lends to my concern about someone who is not convicted and someone who is found to be innocent, but their juvenile records are now public.
Representative Gillespie, any follow-up, sir?
I mean, the genesis of this bill comes from the very fact that a lot of these records are being sealed from the decision makers, both publicly and privately, and just trying to eliminate that repeat cycle that's happening constantly in my community.
Representative Johnson. Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Chairman. Could we go out of session to hear from legal to make sure we've got clarity on that? And I support the intent of the bill, but I want to make sure that the legislative record reflects what it does and doesn't do in terms of whether, specifically, Mr. Chairman, whether those considerations of that juvenile court record is kept in confidence, or whether it becomes public record after the judge has reviewed it, or whether it can still be kept confidential.
Members, any objection going out of session? Not seeing none. We're out of session now. We'll hear from Legal Services. Michelle Fogarty, you're recognized.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services. Could you restate your question, please, Representative Hardaway?
No, ma'am, because it'll be just as confusing. Let me simplify it. So the simplified version is, when the judge receives that information, will the judge be able to keep it confidential, or must he release it to the public, make it part of the public record? That information being the juvenile records, or the part of the juvenile record that influences his decision.
The bill does not specifically speak to that. I suppose if anything was said on the record, if there was a record of the proceeding, that could potentially be public, but the bill as written doesn't specifically require that the information used in the pretrial reports used to set bonds be kept confidential.
Representative Hardaway, any follow-up?
No, sir. Perhaps we can come back and revisit that down the road.
Representative Towns, did you have a question for legal? I did. If so, you recognized.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Legal, can you tell me currently what is the posture if a juvenile committed crime and they're 15, 16, 17 years old and they've been processed, does the law, as we speak, allow for that record to be, whatever happens, to be closed? And then if something happens when they're 19, they start with a fresh slate? How is it currently written as the law?
So under current law, all files and records of the juvenile court are open to inspection only by the judge, officers, and professional staff of the court, parties to the proceeding and their counsel, public or private agency having supervision or custody of a child that's under an order of the court, a court and its probation or other officials or professional staff, an attorney for the defendant for use in preparing a pre-sentence report in a criminal case in which the defendant is convicted and who prior thereto had been a party to a proceeding in the juvenile court. So that's speaking to an adult court as far as a pre-sentencing investigation. With permission of the court, any other person or agency having a legitimate interest would have access to them. But additionally, if a juvenile is 14 years of age or older at the time they commit the alleged act, and the conduct that constituted the delinquent act would have been first-degree murder, second-degree murder, rape, aggravated sexual battery, most of your sexual offenses, your kidnapping offenses, and your aggravated robbery, then those are open to public inspection under current law.
Representative Towns, any follow-up?
Think that explains. Thank you.
Very good. Members, any other additional questions for legal services? Any objection going back into session? Seeing none. We're back into session. Members, on House Bill 34 as amended, any follow-up, any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Any objections to voting? All right, members, we're ready to vote to send House Bill 34 as amended to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Every member voted. Any member like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, would you take the vote?
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 5 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Congratulations, sir. House Bill 34 as amended is moving on to Finance, Ways and Means. Representative Gillespie, and since you had explained, members, we're going to move to item 10, House Bill 341. Representative Gillespie, got a motion and a second. There's no amendments here. I know you were able to get into explaining this just a moment ago. If you just hit us again with that and see if we have any questions for you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for accommodating me. What this does, this was brought to me by the TBI. It's just closing a loophole right now. Not everyone on death row in Tennessee has their DNA on file. This just essentially closes that loophole. And I can certainly go into details as to why that's important. But with that, I renew my motion.
Very good. Thank you, Representative Gillespie. Members, do we have any questions for Representative Gillespie on House Bill 341? Chair Lady Littleton, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call for previous question.
Previous question has been called. Any objection? Seeing none, members, look like we're ready to vote. Send House Bill 341 to calendar and rules. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Every member voted. Any member like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 present not voting.
Members, House Bill 341 is headed to calendar and rules. Thank you, sir. Representative Scarborough, you recognize.
Thank you, Chairman. I know I'm probably out of order, but could I make a quick recognition of some guests here real quick?
Yes, you may.
We got some members there, Tennessee Association Chiefs of Police. I'd like for them to stand and recognize them just real quick. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Gillespie, item 11, members, House Bill 514. You got a motion and a second. There's an amendment 3361, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. Can we, that amendment makes the bill. It just
Members, got a motion, got a second. Members, any objection to adopting House Amendment 3361 to House Bill 514? Say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bill as amended. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This bill comes out of just personal frustration and professional frustration back home. It would allow for or it would require a TASER study to take place over the next year, determining a whole slew of issues regarding firearm sales, whether illegal or legal. Criminal offenses using said guns is really the root of what we're trying to get to. We're trying to figure out some really some number crunching that the locals can't provide or will not provide. So this is just trying to seek some questions that I have about, violent crime in the state using firearms. And it's a TASER study. It may result in future legislation, but that's all I'm trying to do. And with that, I
Thank
welcome
you.
any questions.
Thank you, Representative Gillespie. Members, any questions? I have Leader Lambert, you're first on the list.
Out of respect for my friend from Knox County, roll me one space, please.
Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. You might have covered this because you kind of said legal and illegal when you were describing the bill. So I guess my question, just curiosity, are you able to get at things like private sales and the boyfriend loophole, things like that? Is there a way to pull that in? It sounds like you're trying to pull that in.
Representative Gillespie, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. I'll be honest, where this is coming from for me is more of the illegal part of this equation. We just don't have the numbers. I'll give you an example. 399 homicides last year in Memphis. Simple question. How many of those were used with a firearm that was legally possessed? No one can get me that information. So things like that is what I'm trying to get toward.
Any follow-up, Representative Johnson?
Yes. So in talking to folks, is there a way to get at, people who buy from private sales, like how they got a hold of that weapon? So, that's an issue that we have in Tennessee. So I was just wondering if you've talked to anybody, like there's a way to figure that out or look at that.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you. And again, the frustration is why this is happening. TASER is the state agency that's in charge of intense in-depth research. I have a lot of confidence in them. They have reached out to me on this already. So that's why I'm doing this.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list, I have Leader Lambert.
Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Any objection? Seeing none, looks like we're ready to vote to send House Bill 514 as amended to Finance, Ways and Means. All in favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Anyone like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, you take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 22 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Very good. Congratulations, sir. House Bill 514 as amended is moving to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you.
And members, without objection, if we could move to item 1, House Bill 1376 by Leader Lambert. And sir, it looks like you have House Amendment 3959 traveling with it. And you have a motion and a second. Does that reroute the bill, or is that
Yes,
done
sir.
something we need to
If
go
we
ahead
can
and
put that
adopt?
on there, Mr. Chairman, it rewrites the bill.
Member, any objection to adopting House Amendment 3959? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of adopting House Amendment 3959 to House Bill 1376, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Now we're back on the bill as amended. Leader Lambert, you're properly recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Stand ready for questions, but I will give a just brief description of what this is. We have tried for several years to have a regulatory process out there for hemp products. We've allowed hemp products in this state. 2 years ago, I tried to bring a bill that we passed that put a regulatory process in place on the Department of Agriculture. This bill would move that under the Alcohol Beverage Commission. They do more of the retail regulatory process than Ag does. Ag would still do the regulatory process for those that are growing hemp in this state, but this would shift everything over to ABC. It would have specific licensure available. It is extremely specific as to who can and cannot sell these products, but it allows for this robust market to continue. It does ban THCA and THCP. The reason for that is we have not legalized marijuana in this state. We have not chosen to go down that pathway. There are several bills out there on that, but THCA, when smoked, when heated, becomes marijuana. That is just what it is. And so that's why this bill does ban those two substances. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I stand ready for questions.
Members, anyone have questions for Leader Lambert? And I believe we do have Clint Palmer here to testify in opposition to the bill. Members, do we want to hear from testimony first, and then we can move into questions for Leader Lambert? And, all right, Without objection, we're going to go out of session to hear from Mr. Clint Palmer. All right, sir, if you would just step up, have a seat. 3 minutes. If you introduce yourself, let us know who you're with, your name, and then red light's on. So it's all yours for 3 minutes. We'll have unlimited time for questions after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you for committee for allowing me time to speak today. My name is Clint Palmer. Many of you know me from my 10 years of volunteer lobbying for the hemp industry. I'm here today in opposition to HB 1376. I'm here to explain that the bills you're considering are essentially a repeat of what you passed in 2023. The industry has spent 2 years and millions of dollars shaping their businesses to comply with the 2023 bill. If you pull the rug out from underneath these businesses by passing this bill, you'll close the doors on the majority of hemp businesses within the state. The hemp industry has been through enormous changes over the years, and most recently, the 2023 hemp-derived cannabinoid bill was the biggest change our industry has seen yet. Leader Lambeth and Briggs passed the HDC bill after working with some of the hemp industry, but he amended the bill last minute to include language that the industry did not support. The 2023 bill forced the Department of Ag to regulate the program, and TDA has done a great job and spent hundreds of hours creating rules for the hemp-derived program despite setbacks. One of those setbacks was the delaying of the emergency rules in government operations multiple times. It was actually delayed so far, the emergency rules and the final rules were heard on the same day. Bill sponsors have said that it's the Wild West in regards to the current hemp program. This is far from the truth. My current full-time job is helping hemp companies navigate the regulations put in place by the 2023 bill. The 2023 HDC bill put limitations and restrictions on hemp products containing THC. Retail stores, manufacturers, and distributors are required by law to be licensed or face criminal charges. The bill restricts what products can be sold, where they can be sold, label requirements, and restricts children's access to products. It's not the Wild West, but it does lack enforcement from the Department of Agriculture. This lack of enforcement from the Department of Agriculture isn't due to insufficient funding, but perhaps the unwillingness to act by the Department of Agriculture to simply hire new inspectors. They have emergency hiring procedures to fix the situation they find themselves in. The measures to emergency hire were heard under oath by the hemp program director. The lack of hiring inspectors falls completely on the management on the Department of Agriculture. The funding is 100% there for TDA to implement hiring more inspectors. The 2023 bill required a 6% tax on all hemp-derived products, and the Department of Agriculture takes half of that and is raking in close to $1 million a month in taxes. $1 million in tax revenue a month, and the TDA can't hire inspectors to enforce the law Assembly passed in 2023. There is no way for citizens to hold TDA accountable for their lack of action. So I ask for you, our legislators, to hold them accountable for their lack of enforcement. The bill sponsor also stated in previous committee that you don't know what you're getting, and that is not true. The bill he passed in 2023 requires all HDC products to list each hemp-derived cannabinoid in the product on the label. The 2023 bill 100% requires clear labeling of ingredients and hemp-derived cannabinoids. Consumers know exactly what they are buying thanks to the 2023 bill.
Thank you, sir. And that's your 3 minutes up, and I appreciate your testimony. We'll have unlimited times for questions. Thank you so much. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. Could this bill face legal challenges under the 2018 Farm Bill, which federally legalized hemp? I mean, are we making it illegal to sell a product that is federally legal?
Mr. Palmer, you recognized.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is that good? Members, anyone else? I have Leader Lambert on the list.
Thank you. And I'll limit my questioning here because you and I have a very different memory of our conversations and of history, but that's okay. I would never say that you lied about anything or misrepresented it or slipped something in at the last minute, even though that seems to be your testimony today about me. So we've sat in my office and we've discussed these issues, and you and others made it clear you wanted regulations. And even today you've said, and in fact, I think in some of your public comments, it falls back to lawmakers, but also regulators in the state. A lot of laws left open to interpretation. And you've also said you don't want things to be gray, but they should be black and white. I hope that we could agree that it is a good thing to have this particular market regulated through whatever state agency that is clear and concise to those like yourselves that are making money within this industry and to consumers that are purchasing these products. Could we at least agree on that, that it is good to have some regulations around this particular?
Yes, sir.
Mr.
I would
Mr.
agree
Palmer,
with you
you're
that it's good to have regulation. I think it is good to have a regulation from a department that has an understanding of that. The problem with that here is that the ABC Commission does not have a clear understanding of the hemp plant, and it's clearly shown in this bill.
Leader Lambert, you recognize, sir.
And I don't want to misunderstand what you may have just said in response to the previous question, but it sounded almost like what you said is that regardless of what regulations the state puts in place, you guys are going to sue us again because the Federal Farm Act sets a certain standard on this. But states are allowed to go beyond that and have additional regulations. Many, in fact, have, and there are some states that have banned all Delta 8 THC products. So surely you're not indicating that you're just going to sue us no matter what we do.
Absolutely
Mr.
not.
Palmer,
And we
you
actually,
recognize.
sorry, we actually didn't sue you or the assembly. We sued the Department of Agriculture directly. And so it wasn't because of your law, but rather their interpretation of the law into their rules.
Leader Lambert.
Would you at least concede that the state of Tennessee and this legislature has the authority to put fair regulations around these particular products?
Mr. Palmer.
Yes, sir, I would. I would just ask that you would hold the Department of Agriculture accountable because us as citizens, we cannot. There's no lawsuit that I can file to hold them accountable. It is merely you guys. So what I would ask simply is that you roll the bill for 1 week, ask the Department of Agriculture to come up here and testify why they are not enforcing this.
Leader Lambert. No more. Members, I have, excuse me, I have Representative Kiesling. Sir, you recognize?
Thanks, Chairman. Appreciate it. Leader, from my district, a question, sir. You would. All right, currently,
I
here's
apologize. I'm sorry. This is probably my fault. Did you want to be recognized when we're back on the bill?
Oh, excuse me. Of course. I'm sorry.
That's my fault. I apologize. Remember, any other questions for our guest before we go back into session? Representative Powell.
I had a follow-up. I asked some of this last week, but a question for you. Can you speak to if this law is turned into effect, becomes law and passes? Currently, farmers that have planted, like what will happen to those crops? Any kind of economic impact that you can point to around this? And then also, I guess the part I'm confused about is that it was stated that some of these products would be very difficult, if not impossible, to now manufacture or grow in state, but they would come from other states. So could you speak to how that, we couldn't do that here in Tennessee, but you could elsewhere? Thank you.
Mr. Palmer, you recognize.
Yes, sir. So the ABC bill actually has numerous limitations on the growing, the amount of THC that the growth of the plant could have. And that's where I spoke to, they don't really know the plant that well because the numbers that they give are unachievable. So what it would do is effectively kill all hemp crops in the state because of the limitation of the 0.1% THCA. It seems like we're going after THCA when the reality is THC is the one on the books. By doing so, all the opportunities that we have in the car automotive industry with the fiber side of hemp would go away as well.
Representative Powell, any follow-up?
And can you speak to what sort of economic impact the industry has? Or
Sure. So right
Mr.
now,
Palmer, you
just
recognize.
in taxes that are being pulled in, $2 million a month, and that's 6%. So we're talking about a really, really large market and a lot of jobs and just a big portion of Tennessee's economy that if we take away this program and we take away all this tax revenue, which I must say the fiscal review of this bill is not accurate. When we have tax revenue information that you can pull right off the website right now and it contradicts the fiscal, I think there's a major issue there. So what you see on the fiscal is not actually accurate if you were to look at the Department of Revenue website. That being said, you're talking about 6% at $2 million. This is a easily $100 million market that we're dealing with right now. And so to wipe it clean and say we're not going to tax it, we're going to make it illegal, you're directly putting it into the hands of the black market rather than giving the consumers access to a regulated, tested product.
President Powell, any follow-up? Thanks, sir. Representative Towns, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. The industry right now in Tennessee, are they mainly small businesses doing this?
There's small and large businesses. the company that I work for, I have clients that have one store. I have clients that have 30 stores and are also manufacturers and suppliers. So everything from a single store that's selling prepackaged goods to people that are creating the goods here in state and selling them to their individual stores.
Are there corporate entities involved in it now?
Corporate entities?
Mhm.
Yes, sir, they have been. Mhm.
So if this bill were to pass, what do you think the impact is going to be on small businesses?
Oh, so the small businesses are probably the ones that are going to be the most affected the quickest, just because the manufacturers are the ones that can change their products, whereas the retail is only going to be able to limited to opportunity to sell specific products, and they're going to be very limited on what they could sell. So yeah, it would be detrimental. The majority of the stores are telling me about 70% of their retail sales would be removed if this bill went through.
Now, you may or may not know this answer. What do you think the total volume of activity financially is in the state for this business today?
Hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think that what we're seeing on the tax revenue side is a true equivalent of what's happening. I think what we're seeing is the stores that are paying the taxes. We're seeing that tax revenue. Department of Revenue is in charge of enforcing that side of it, making sure that everyone's paying their taxes. And we've seen that revenue jump almost twofold in the past year.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, do you have an idea what kind of money the state is collecting for that, or tax-wise? Just
Yep. So we're right at about $2 million a month in total for that 6% sales tax. So half of that is going to ag and half of that is going to revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Members, anyone else before we go back into session? Any objection to going back into session? Seeing none. Thank you, sir, for being here. Appreciate your time. Representative Kiesling, sir, you are recognized on the bill. Pass. Members, anyone else? Representative Ashley, you're recognized, sir. Previous question has been called. Any objection? All right. Members, all those in favor of previous question, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Previous question prevails. Members, all in favor of sending House Bill 1376 as amended to Commerce, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Every member voted. Any member like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 ayes, 4 noes, and 2 present not voting.
Very good. House Bill 1376 as amended moves to Commerce Committee. Thank you, members. And if we could move down to item 7, Chairman Rudd, sir, you've been patiently waiting. You have no House Bill 216, item 7, members. House Bill 216, no amendments. Chairman Rudd, you are properly recognized.
No, sir. Excuse me, no amendments.
That's right. You're probably recognized.
As you recall, last year we passed a very popular bill across the wide political spectrum, where we had an anti-squatting bill on residential property. Due to the code and the bill that we took up and ran that, we didn't include commercial, and we're doing the same thing on commercial properties this year. This has become a problem, especially in Tennessee's urban areas and urban areas around the state, around the nation, that people are going into vacant, abandoned properties and either moving into them to live or start using them as commercial, claim to have a lease. We can't get rid of them. They can take the property owner up to a year or more and spend tens of thousands of dollars to evict them and their false claims of having a lease. And that's what this remedies and shortens that down to as little as 72 hours.
Thank you for the explanation. Members, any questions? Questions been called? Any objections? Been seconded? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. Members, all those in favor of moving House Bill 216 to calendar and rules, vote aye. Those opposed, vote no. Every member voted. Anybody like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, if you take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Very good. Item 7, House Bill 216 by Chairman Rudd moves to calendar and rules. Thank you, sir. Members, we could move to item 12, House Bill 78. Representative Stevens. Sir, you got a motion and a second. I'm saying House Amendment 3570 moving with this. Is this something you'd like to, you got a motion and a second. Does it make the bill?
Yes, it rewrites the bill.
Members, we want to go ahead and attach this to the bill. Any objections? Question's been called. Seeing no objection, all those in favor of adopting House Amendment 3570 to House Bill 78, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. All right, back in the bill as amended. You're properly recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All this bill does is clarifies which court is a proper venue if someone has bond condition violations as a new crime.
Good. Members, question has been called and withdrawn. Leader has withdrawn the question. Representative Johnson, you're properly recognized.
So in this bill, how does it determine which jurisdiction gets, how does it determine priority, which jurisdiction gets priority?
Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just give you an example. So if someone gets arrested and convicted, or someone gets arrested in Rutherford County and has bond conditions, and they commit another crime in Davidson County, there was a case or two where there was a dispute between the courts over which one was the proper place to handle the new crime of the bond conditions. So what this clarifies is wherever the violation of the bond conditions happens, that county is the one that hears the case for that new crime.
Okay, thank you.
Or if there's multiple elements of a crime, if any of those happen in different counties, any of those counties can prosecute the new crime.
Okay, any of them can. Is there one that has priority over another or? Okay,
There's not one that has priority. I guess the district attorneys would have to work that out.
they just have to decide. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Move previous question.
Any objection? Seeing none. Members, look like we're voting to send House Bill 78 as amended to calendar and rules. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Any member like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 present not voting.
Thank you. House Bill 78 as amended. Representative Stevens moves to calendar and rules. Thank you for being here. Members, we could try to we're running a little short on time, but if we could move to item 13, Representative McCalvin, House Bill 45. You have no amendments on this, sir. You're probably recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what House Bill 45 does is simply increase the penalty of child abuse leading to injury on 9 to 17-year-olds from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class E felony. That's all it does. And with that, I stand ready for questions and renew my motion.
Members, any questions? Questions been called. Any objection? Seeing none. Item 13, House Bill 45. Excuse me, members. We're voting to send House Bill 45 to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed vote no. Everybody voted. Anybody like to change their vote? All right, Madam Clerk, if you take the vote, please.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 present not voting.
Looks like House Bill 45 moves to Finance, Ways and Means. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Remember, let's try one more. If we could, without objections, move to item 15, Representative Capley, 553, House Bill 553, sir. I don't see any amendments on that either.
Thank you, Chairman. No, sir.
All right, you're properly recognized. You've got a motion. You've been properly seconded. If you let us know what your bill does.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, committee. I'm here today on behalf of the District Attorney's Conference. We're working on kind of what we did last year. I know several of you on this committee supported the Back the Blue Act that we ran. This bill simply adds correctional, probation, and parole officers to the list of law enforcement officers that are covered under the enhancement statute for assault/aggravated assault against a law enforcement officer/first responder. That's what the bill does.
And thank you for that explanation, sir. I have Leader Lambert. You recognize?
Move previous question.
Previous question has been called. Do you have any objection? Seeing none. Members, looks like we're voting to send House Bill 553 to Finance, Ways and Means. All those in favor vote aye. Opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Anybody like to change their vote? Madam Clerk, will you take the vote?
Mr. Chair, you have 17 ayes, 5 noes, and 0 present not voting.
Congratulations, sir. House Bill 553 moves to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, sir.
And members, without objection, we're going to roll all remaining bills to next week's calendar. And without objection, we'll stand adjourned. Ooh, ooh. It's like, what? All right. We got through some.